stretch forth positive contribution that will bring transformation in their community. I pray that there be vivid communication and there shall be assimilation of truth that will cause a man to triumph in an area that they were trapped, that your name be glorified as society step forward to the next level because of the transforming effect of somebody in this particular leadership session. Father, let your name alone be glorified as you cause my mind to articulate wisdom, revelation, with respect to timely understanding, and with respect to those who you mandated to put forth, to bring forth your glory in the encounters and the dispensation which they find themselves in. Take all the glory, Lord. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen. Praise God. The first scripture which I want to start with is Psalms 82, verse 1. We're going to do some analysis and then we are going to see how we bring our minds to a place of comprehension of that which can stimulate an element of divinity in us for us to give an expression which is unique. Because we live in a generation which people actually are living the shadow of the reality they were fashioned for. And a lot of people are trying to replicate that which they were not actually mandated for, because they find it work for somebody. There's a level of truth that brings you to a state of understanding where you function within the confine of your true self. And that's my interest. I believe that the impact of this particular leadership session shall be unforgettable. Amen. Bible says, God stands in the congregation of the mighty. He judgeth among gods. God, big G, stands in the congregation of the mighty. And he judgeth among gods. Now, let me get you a little in front, and then we'll come back again so I'll be able to understand. Verse 6 says, I have said, God is speaking, you are gods, you are gods, and children of the Most High God. So the congregation of the mighty actually are the children of God. So God defines you as mighty. Somebody say mighty. Society has a way it defines you, but God's definition for you is not equal to the perception of society, it's equal to his intent for your existence. So God does not define you based on your understanding about yourself. God does not define you based on your placement. God does not define you based on the definition of people. He defines you based on what he put inside of you. In Genesis 1, verse 27, Bible says, and God created man. He's the one who created man. Now, look at the context and the content of creating man. He said, I created man not just like a liability. I created man not just like an obstacle. I created man not just like a slave. I created man in my image. Image connotes a reflection of an existing being, implying that man was created to reflect the fullness of who God is. Oh my God, I pray somebody understand that. Now, you see, the picture you have about yourself, which is not correct, makes you to live an incorrect life. When you have the right picture about yourself, then that which your life would deploy would reflect the potency of God. If men will see the strength of God, it's in the communication of that which a man have apprehended the truth about themselves in manifestation. So when man begin to manifest the reality of what they're fashioned for, people can actually see God and feel God. There are dogmas and traditions that make man to be like a slave, which must wait for God to come and do something before they become significant. But I'm taking you out of that picture. God did not create you as a liability. God did not create you as a weakling that he must come to act. Late Archbishop Ben said, that was I said, the entire council of witches around the world was coming to his city. And he stood up and said, that meeting will not hold in the city. And then the chief of these occultic people said, even God cannot stop them. He laughed, he said, you are right. Because God does not need to waste his time to come to stop you when I'm here. The reason is because God has made you his image. God has made you to represent him. Image represents who you are in another placement. You can carry my image to a place which I'm not. And when people see the image, they will see me the same way I am. So when man enters into the understanding and apprehension of their originality, they begin to perform divinity here on earth. So there is a level of illumination a person attains where wherever they go, if men want to see God, they will see God in your actions, in your reactions, in the life you live. When men are unable to live a life that can be a proof of who God is an indication that men are living with a poor image of who they are. It says, my people, God is saying, my people are destroyed because of what? Lack of knowledge. You shall know the truth, and you shall become unstoppable. You didn't hear what I said? The truth shall make you free. Man was not fashioned to be bound. Our caption of the leadership session is breaking limits. Man was not fashioned to be in the confine of limitations. One of the things which will shock you is to know that some people have misinterpreted the gospel and made man to sit on the bench of liability and dependability. Man was not fashioned to be on the bench of dependability. Man was fashioned to be independent. Independence is a state of depending on the inward ability of divinity in you, demonstrating God's power. That's independence. Independence is not rebellion. There must be proof of your independence. By that we should deploy, which can be able to make a difference. So when he created man in his image. And like I said, let me be able to empower you so that the capacity in me can be performed by you on the earth realm. Because I'm spirit, so I need to remain in this jurisdiction of heaven, which is spiritual in nature. But I've created another territory for you where you can be in charge. I've created another territory where I don't want to function in. I want you to represent me in it. Oh, you didn't get what I said. So he said, I have empowered you. Now, Genesis 1:28 says, and God bless man. Bless means empowered for effective functionality. Bless means equipped for relevance. Blessed means endowed with capacity that is unlimited. Are you getting what I'm saying here? There's some realities we need to go through. We come out of an illusion where we are always waiting for somebody to come and do something for us. It's time we begin to discover what is in us that can give us everything. Now, in religious connotation, there are scriptures which we must be able to give attention to. If we have proper understanding of them, we will stop wasting time. Bible says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, then every other thing shall be added unto you. Now let's understand this. What is the kingdom? The Bible says the kingdom of God is like a treasure buried in a field, that if a man finds it, he will give up everything for it. My God. Means the kingdom is stronger than every other thing. The kingdom has the potency to influence everything. The kingdom has the potency to attract everything. The kingdom has the potency to command unending relevance. Then he said, the kingdom is in you. You didn't hear what I said? Jesus said, the kingdom of God is within you. Implies within man lies capacity that is unlimited. Within man lies capacity that can attract all. Whatever you're not attracting is as a result of your inability to exploit the kingdom in you. Jesus told the people who had seen great prophets. He said, John the Baptist, you see, is greater than every prophet that had lived before him. But he said, the least in the kingdom is greater than John the Baptist. Implies that kingdom understanding puts you on a goal of productivity beyond Elijah, beyond Abraham, beyond Moses. Somebody's not getting what I'm saying here. We are living in a generation where we are celebrating anointing anointings that are limited in capacity based on the jurisdiction of our placement and dispensation. When we can understand dispensational declaration of God's mandate, we will realize that we are in a dispensation which the glory is higher than the former. Bible said the latter glory shall be greater than the former. You see, it is a primitive understanding to be desired to operate with the anointing of Elijah for fire to come. That level of understanding caused a people who went before a great opportunity to explore destiny to be looking back at an anointing that was primitive. Then God corrected it. When Jesus took Peter, James, and John on the Mount of Transfiguration, so I can connect them to the future, they were sleeping because their mind was in the past. Oh, you didn't hear what I said. Each time people, their minds are on primitive anointing. They cannot connect themselves to timely revelation. There are some kind of teachings which people will be sleeping in church because they are waiting for Elijah's anointing. Fire must fall down. They are waiting for Moses' anointing. Red Sea must open. Not understanding that every dispensation has its revelation. Can we get into the book of Matthew chapter 6? Who is the one reading that? Now, give him the microphone. This is serious. Read from verse 9 to 12.
I read in Jesus' name.
Amen.
After this manner, therefore, pray ye.
Pray. Now understand the context of prayers, because there is one religious activity that takes place in church which does not connote God's purpose of prayers.
It says, Our Father which are in heaven.
Now understand this. Our Father. He didn't say my Father. You know, it's a wrong notion to begin to specify God as your Father. God is the Father of all. You find segregated-minded people call God as their Father. You find segregated-minded people try to limit God to their personality. When you enter into the globality of life, you must have integrated into the global concept of a bigger family than the biological family you're born in, where somebody in China, somebody in America, somebody in Yugoslavia, yet the kind of way the name is difficult. You see the person as your brother, and you are in one family with one father. There is a state of unification of mindset that permits you to access divinity in the place of prayer. No man can access divinity in the place of prayer when there's segregation in their mind. It means for you to access God. Now, this is the science of prayers. For you to access the supernatural effectively for global impact, you must come out of the segregated thinking. When you don't see our Father as my Father, my church, our denomination, you must understand that God is in charge of all, but we represent different structures in the body of Christ, which is one body, but we represent different aspects. So I'm saying, when you're born again, you become a member. The eye does not feel is independent of the ear, and the ear does not feel is independent of the mouth, and that is where we have come into segregation and dividing the body of Christ and expecting to get to a high. There are dimensions where the leg will have a problem if the eye is not present to help him to miss and escape the ditch. So the eye empowers the leg so that the leg can perform effectively. The leg empowers the ear. You must understand that every person is fashioned to represent something which is not independent, which is correlating to that which others represent. That is the concept of the body. When you don't get to any place where you feel any success or any power, any dimension of oppression makes you better than others. You only see you fitting to play your own part because others have their own part. You can be able to value others, others can value you. The reason why the body of Christ cannot have a strong voice, the reason why we can't have revival is because people think that revival will come when people are praying with disunity mind. There can't be a revival anyway when people have disunity in their mind. The greatest revival that will ever occur is when people come to oneness in mindset. They were in one mind. They were together in one place. And then the Spirit of God came upon them. And a local fisherman started speaking. And the anointing attracted thousands of people. They got saved. When we have this segregated mentality, even our prayers cannot ascend the ranks of divinity. What am I talking about? Our grow out of self and become selfless, you can pray an effective prayer. Proceed.
It says, hallowed be thy name.
Hallowed be thy name. Telling you, hallow is reverence. If you don't have a reverence, a heart of reverence to God, you cannot access God in prayers. You didn't hear what I said? Whatever you don't reverence, you cannot receive from. Whosoever will be able to be of a plus in your life, you must be able to reverence it. Nothing adds to your life until you have reverence for it. Whatever your value for is low, you cannot be able to receive anything from. I always tell people that virtue goes in the direction of value. So if you want more virtue, then increase your value. You can be in a place where there is something that can add to your life, but you receive nothing because your value is poor. Hallowed be thy name. Proceed.
Verse 10. Thy kingdom come.
Thy kingdom come. Understand, you see, we have a problem trying to invent a program for our existence. We have a problem trying to create a system for ourselves. We must understand that there is an existing program. When we talk about the finished work, we are talking about deploying your understanding to that which has already been created for you to fit in, so that excellence will become your natural action and response and manifestation and experience. Thy kingdom come. Understand, what is his kingdom? His kingdom has to do with his purpose to which he created you for. Jeremiah 29:11 says, my plans for you, not your own plans, are plans of good. So if man would experience goodness, they must die to their own will and fit to the will of God. Now, fitting to the will of God doesn't make you a liability, no. You are fitting to understanding of your reality, for the eye not to be trying to hear. You didn't get what I understand. So you're not trying to get power from anywhere by submitting to the will of God. Submitting to the will of God is fitting into your reality so you can be effective. You didn't hear what I said. Submitting to the will of God is fitting to your reality so you can be effective. Because you always struggle in what is not original with you. The man will be struggling to see because he was not fashioned to see. The eye was fashioned to see, so it doesn't struggle to see. So submitting to the will of God is fitting into your reality for effective functionality. Thy kingdom come. So anybody who cannot be able to gain access to that which God is saying for now can never have a now relevance. Very important point. Anybody who cannot get access to what God is saying for now cannot have a now relevance. There are a lot of things which you do, people clap for you, but it doesn't bring relevance. Because in a very short while, it becomes like a wind, a shadow that passes away. Nothing has tangibility that is not with God. Bible says there's a way that seems right to a man, but the future is destruction. So it's not permanent, it's temporal. But the will of God is permanent. The blessings of the Lord makes rich and add no sorrow. Continue.
Thy will be done in earth.
In earth means the will of God is not meant for heaven. The will of God is meant for earth. So God has a program for earth, which you need to ascend into to be relevant on the earth. Because he actually sent you on earth here for a purpose. So his will comes to give you a picture to why he sent you here on earth so you can be effective. You walk in direction which you will be relevant, not just walk anyhow. A person who's walking anyhow will end anywhere. But a person who has direction will end in a particular destination. Continue.
That will be done in earth as it is in heaven.
As it is in heaven, telling you that man is not fashioned to do something that conflicts with heaven's standard. You didn't hear what I've said. Any man who actually enters into the understanding of their purpose operate in conformity with God's standard in heaven. If we are his children, then there must be a genetic transfusion of his capacity and functionality. A black man cannot give birth to a white man because their genetic contents are different. When you look at the person, you start seeing certain features in the person that resemble their parents. Have you noticed that? Certain features that also resemble their parents. Why? Because of what? The genetic transfusion. So you must understand that if you are a child of God, there are certain values which are in God, which are in your originality. So seeking the will of God helps you to have a better picture of your true self. So Bible says, study to show yourself. Telling you that there's a dimension of you that has not been discovered. That's why you're living a life of limitation. When you get to discover your true self, you see a God in you, and you become the solution anywhere you are. So God said in Psalms 82 verse 6, I have said, because no man can tell you you are foolish. Man can tell you a failure. Man can tell you you are a nobody. Man can tell you you will not make it. Man can tell you you are a disgrace. That's my opinion. But he said that, who created you? I know you better than one man can say. So if you allow yourself to be influenced by man's opinion, you might never fulfill your destiny. Say, I have said that you are God. A child of a dog cannot be a monkey. A child of a dog must be a dog. Telling you that if you're a child of God, then you are a God. He said, ye are gods and children of the Most High God. A deformed picture about yourself makes you to live a life lesser than what you were fashioned for. A story of a lion who was abandoned small. He grew with sheep because a shepherd took care of him. A hunter brought him among the sheep. He grew with sheep and started thinking he was a sheep. And then started acting like a sheep. When he talks like a sheep. But he saw himself bigger than sheep. He said, maybe it's because I eat too much. When they go to drink water, when the lion comes to eat the sheep, as the other sheep are running, he runs also. Why? Because he thinks like a sheep, because he grew in a sheep environment where he heard the sheep language and had the fear of sheep. When man grows in an environment and allow the environment to influence them, they lost their identity. That's why Romans chapter 12 verse 2 in the New Living Translation of the Bible says, don't let the customs and the behaviors of men to influence you, but rather let the message of God change the way you think, that you're able to do what is good. Tell you, anyone who has bad performance, when they are set into the will of God, by the mercy of God, bringing them to the understanding of their originality, they become good in their performance. Amen. So no man is fashioned to be a problem. You can break out of that problematic life and get to a life of positive influence, which is unlimited. Continue.
Verse 11. Give us this day our daily bread.
Give us. I want to emphasize on that. Give us. Us is plural. You must understand that that which comes from God is not just for you. God gives you anything not because of you, but because of the people. Give us this day. Now I'm going to analyze that verse. Give us. Give us. You must constantly place a demand in the supernatural for that which is needed in your generation. This day has to do with what? The peculiarity of your dispensation, your time. The Bible said the sons of Issachar had an understanding of their time. No man can be effective and efficient to properly represent God without conflict if they lack an understanding of the time. If you lack an understanding of the time, you can be talking godly things but not in context of the time. This is Jesus in a dispensation, connecting to the mind of God for that dispensation, but he was conflicted by the Pharisees, those who were considered as lawgivers, those who were considered as the Levites, but their understanding was not the understanding of the time. So when Jesus started speaking, he said, this is not what our father Moses, implying that their minds were still buried in a dispensation that has expired. And Jesus said, Moses said this based on the demand of his time. But this is what the Lord is saying now. Telling you that for you to be effective, you must not adopt the reality of 19th century to operate in the 21st century. Every century, every dispensation has its demand. Understanding your time makes you to be effective, contextual, and productive. The lack of understanding of your time makes you to be a conflict to the body of Christ. Makes you to contradict truth without realizing. They fought Jesus. Not because Jesus was wrong, but because they lack an understanding of the time. If you're going to be efficient and break limits, you must be able to constantly deploy your mind in the realm of the spirit to seek the mind of God for your time. Contextual revelation makes you to be relevant in your time, and you'll be able to push a people to a place called forward. But once we allow our mind to yesterday, we bury the destiny and the civilization of people to yesterday. Many societies are not evolved because those who are into the leadership, their minds are still obsessed with the 19th century standard. A time came when in the Indian Society of Engineers in the 1700s, where the top engineers they said a metal object cannot fly based on what their understanding. And two brothers who were righteous, they called them the right brothers. They stretched their mind into the understanding of their time. And they came out with a concept that violated what was a limitation in the minds of the people. Everywhere a people have set a limit is as a result of limited understanding. Laws that govern a people is based on what? The level of the illumination and civilization which the people have attained, which they have been able to bring standards that can cause people to manage that level of civilization. But as time evolves, if your mind still remain in the ancient civilization, you keep the society stagnant. So laws can stagnate and laws can cause people to break limits and move forward. So there's a law that keeps you at a particular level of result. If you want to get to a higher level of result, you need a higher law. So they came out with the law of aerodynamics, which influences the law of gravity, which was the problem of the people who were respected as top engineers, and they flew the first plane. Everything which sounds as an impossibility is an impossibility because the times have changed, but your understanding on how to explore it has not evolved to the demand of the time. Who is getting what I'm saying here? It is serious for you to know that it is practically impossible for impossibilities to exist with a man who has timely revelation. Did you hear what I said? It's practically impossible for impossibilities to exist with a man who has timely revelation. What is a problem to you is not a problem to every person. Tell you that word. Everybody does not think like you. And your greatest problem, why you attract the kind of things you attract, is based on your thinking. If things will change around you, your thinking must evolve. So in Isaiah chapter 1 verse 18, he said, come and let us reason together. Tell you that word. There is a level of revelation you attain where your result also will be improved. You did hear what I said? Come. Come is an adjective that warrants a change of placement. So your mental placement will determine your life placement. If you want to change your life placement, you must consider the option of changing your mental placement. For as a man thinks, so is he. Nobody can be able to do above their thinking. Say, come and let us reason together. When you seek the will of God, you fit into timely understanding that makes it to be relevant with respect to the demand of that time. That's why the right brothers, they flew the first plane. Whatever you see as an obstacle, as a challenge today, God said, with me, all things are possible. So seeking the will of God, launch you on the platform of possibilities where people are still in impossibility. Now the question is, the possibilities of yesterday cannot be the possibilities of today because of the changing demand of time. So there's a constant need for you to ask for what? The revelation of your time. Give us this day. You see, get for yesterday. The manner of yesterday was good for yesterday. A day with God is equal to what? 1,000 years with man. He said that give us the revelation for our century, our dispensation. We know that in the previous day in your calendar you had a program that he focused again and said, our now has to do with what? Your generation. So God gives a revelation for a whole millennium, which is a day with him. But then you must constantly understand where you fit in the calendar of God for his program in a whole millennium. Nobody can live for a millennium. I live in my generation. My generation is in the millennium. So when I have the revelation of the millennium, I should see also to know the revelation of my generation, so that I should not operate with a revelation for the 22nd century while I'm in the 21st century. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because if I ascend into the revelation of the 22nd century to function in the 20th century, nobody will understand me. Because they were not wired for that century. You see, you are existing in this generation because this is your generation. And you have been structured. Jeremiah 1 said, before I formed you in your mother's belly, I knew you. So you were structured in your mother's womb to fit with the dispensation, the generation where you find yourself in. So while you seek the revelation for the dispensation, find where you fit so that whatever you're doing should be in conformity with the next level. Such people who understand the revelation of the dispensation and the revelation of their generation, they think generational. It means they don't think and end within their generation. They think and also stretch to the next generation so that there should be a relay. I should end where I can transfer baton to the next person. Many people are never thinking to transfer mantle to others because they think only within their generation. But you have the revelation of the dispensation and the revelation of your generation. You understand that there is a lot in your generation that empowers the next generation. So you'll be thinking beyond yourself. You will stretch to others. Give us. Continue.
Verse 12. And forgive us our debts.
And forgive us our debts. Continue.
As we forgive our debtors.
Now, don't understand. Forgive our debts as we forgive our
debtors.
God says, if you are expecting God to do anything to you, do it to others. Say, forgive us as we forgive.
Yes.
So it's in the measure to which you can forgive others that God can forgive you. So people who don't have a forgiving heart can never attract God's forgiveness. People who don't have a giving heart to others can never receive a gift from God. The measure to which you want God to do anything to you is the measure you should do to others. So, can I speak something here? When you develop hatred for others, you are attracting God's hatred. You didn't hear what I said. It implies whatever you can't get from God is whatever you can give to man. Very serious. Write it down. Whatever you can't get from God is whatever you can give to man. Whatever you can't get from God is whatever you can give to man. So whatever you are designed to get from God, be ready to give to man. So scripture says, give, and it shall be given back to you. Telling you that a way to place a demand to divinity, to deploy that which you desire, is in you deploying what you have to others who desire it. I pray somebody understands what I'm saying. A way for you to provoke divinity to deploy to you what you desire is for you to deploy what you have to them that desire it. So each time somebody desires what you have, it's an opportunity for you to unlock heaven to release what you desire. Oh, this is too deep to understand. So many who are expecting heaven to deploy into their life what they desire don't know that no matter how they ask, nothing shall be given. Until they understand how to unlock. And how do you unlock? By you deploying to men what they desire from you. Then God will deploy to you what you desire from them. What scripture was I reading? What scripture am I analyzing? What particular verse am I analyzing? Read it.
It says, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors.
That's what I'm analyzing. You see this message, you can preach it for 1 year.
Yes.
And when people have an understanding of it, they will not be struggling to be waiting for breakthrough. They can provoke heaven to give them what they want.
Yes.
By deploying to humanity what humanity needs from them. Everybody has something to give. Amen. Sometimes you don't have money, but you have energy. There's equity in labor to that which is financial. What is equity? An equivalent finance. So nobody actually is empty. Everybody has something to offer. There's something you can actually do to attract that which you desire. Read that scripture again.
And forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors.
Oh, Jesus gave a simple advice. That is prayers. That's the direction. So if you're expecting God to forgive you, forgive others. If you're expecting God to bless you, bless others. You're expecting God to give you attention, give attention to others. Who is understanding that? You can break it and break it and break it till tomorrow. Are you following me? Next verse. This is serious to understand.
Verse 13. It says, and lead us not into temptation.
And lead us not into temptation. You must constantly seek and solicit divine direction if you will not be able to be a victim of disgrace. And lead us. Never assume because people celebrate you that you are powerful. Never assume because you won the previous battle, you win every battle. You must constantly place a demand of divine direction if you will not be a victim of disgrace. Distinction comes when a man has arrived at a point of humility where they can constantly place a demand to divine direction in every step they take. Continue.
But deliver us from evil.
But deliver us from evil. Oh my God. Forget about anybody who just come up. Oh, grace has also you. Oh, grace. No, forget. Let me tell you. The grace of God. Can you read 2 Peter chapter 1 verse 2? Bible says, grace and peace. Tell you that grace is evident in your life when you're experiencing peace. Grace is not just a talk. Grace and peace. Peace is the evidence of the presence of grace. Grace and peace is multiplied in us through the increase of the knowledge of God. So the more you know Him, the more you become graced. You are engraced in the knowledge of God. In practical analysis, in leadership context, when we want to communicate in different sectors of life, you would tell somebody how effective you be in any project is equal to the level of knowledge you have about that project. True of us. So grace is ability. And people say God is grace. Grace is God's ability and inability. People say that. Now how can God's ability be in your inability? You must understand. My ability to drive is because I acquired knowledge on driving, right? So I was impacted with the grace of driving, not because somebody lay hands on me. Because I acquired the knowledge. I wrote a book, 3-Dimensional Grace, where I talked about transferred grace. I talked about inherited grace. I talked about cultivated grace. And I said, what will make you independent is cultivated grace. And I said, not well managed can cause you to function in a time which is outdated. Transferred grace has to do with genetic abilities you inherited from your parents. No, inherited grace, I beg your pardon, has to do with what? Inherited abilities you got from your parents through your genes. Now, temperament is defined as those attitudes which you have, which are a product of what? The combination of the chromosome that somebody causes that which is upon the person to come upon you. Yourself, you that believe in me, what I do, you will do it. Every greater thing shall you do because I go to the Father. Transferred because of what? Service. So there's grace that is imparted to a man because of service. Who are you serving? You don't get grace when you are serving nobody. You are graceless when there's nobody you serve. Who is hearing what I'm saying? The cultivated grace has to do with you acquiring the knowledge of God that corresponds to God's purpose in your life. For you to function based on your ingenuity, function based on your originality. That one is what will sustain you. The other ones are temporal to give you a leeway. But what will get you to independence is cultivated grace. Study to show yourself, not your father. I can buy a car and give you as a father. But the day you start knowing how to make money to buy your own car, you buy the kind of car you like, not the one which I bought for you. That's independence. Where was I?
Verse 13. Yes, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom.
For thine is the kingdom. You must understand that God's interest for you is kingdom. And kingdom constitutes the program of God from heaven concerning your existence that has the capacity to empower a sector of life for the glory of God to be seen. king dominion. Bible says in the book of Proverbs 25:2, is the glory of God to conciliate him, but the honor of kings to search out the matter. Your ability to seek that which is original with you. Tell you that your destiny constitutes that which God has designed for a particular domain in life. Your ability to seek it makes you a king in a domain because you carry capacities which constitute the elements that inspire advancement in that domain. In your body, your eye is the key in sight. So the domain of sight is ruled by the eye. There's a domain in a jurisdiction in society for a particular influence where you have nobody you compare with. Nobody has kingdom understanding and then they envy or they jealous. They have an understanding of something which only them represent. For the eye to envy the mouth, there's a problem. Because when the eye envy the mouth, you desire to lick paper like the mouth. And what is the effect? So envy is a state of purposeless thinking. Envy is a primitive thinking that denies you access to see life in its true context. No man envies another one when they have understanding of their purpose. Kingdomites can integrate everywhere. They have no conflict with what you are, how you function. Today you find people who are too protected, they're afraid of this, afraid of that. There is fear that has made the church to be in conflict. Oh, you take my member, you do this. I have had people who, based on a degenerated understanding, they take advantage of some people which they feel that can be potentials in their system. Can I talk to you? If God has called you, hello, do what is right. Anybody who leaves you was not meant to be with you. When you try to keep some people who are not supposed to be with you, they become a problem in your system. And most of the times you have made a prison gate called denomination, trying to keep every person we succeed to find enter into our camp. Because we don't have the selfless thinking, our Father. It is my Father, my church. When you are a kingdomite, you don't think at that level. Your passion is to see people succeed and fulfill God's purpose. It is true you have to protect the sheep. But sometimes you must be flexible. Enter into covenants with God when you pray for your children. Let me tell you, there's no amount of way you can protect people in your church. Because they watch things on television, they'll be on Facebook and anything can corrupt them. But if God is at the center of your operation, God preserves those which are yours. I will tell you, you can operate in all kind of anointing that people will never follow you. I'm talking to leaders. You can operate with all kind of gifting that people will not follow you. There are people whom there's a sent man over their life. When they hear the voice of such a person, destiny begins to organize. There are people whom can be blessed by a guest speaker, but they can never follow that guest speaker. You didn't hear what I said? So we must focus to raise kingdomites, and then there's going to be less friction in the body of Christ. We'll begin to fight, oh, my member, like this, that bad pastor, the good pastor, that bad member, this good member. It's as a result of a primitive understanding to assignment. We have a positive assignment, positive understanding about assignment. You will not have conflict. One of my mentors told me something. He said, don't have problem with any of your friends because of a spiritual child. Because they'll still leave you one day. But that friend will stand with you. Today, many pastors who don't interact, what they do is they sit, they wait. A person who is rebellious somewhere comes and gives a bad information about that pastor. They take it and start defining that pastor based on what a rebellious child said. Few have given attention to be able to talk and dialogue with a pastor. Someone wrote on Facebook. So sometimes, before anger makes you to create a problem which would have not existed, first consider the option to dialogue. We've not had time to dialogue to find out the root cause. We react. And once we have taken what we have taken in our mind, we now talk with that mentality. I'll tell you the truth. There are people whom God will bring around you that will have some flaws. Because you yourself have flaws. How you can be able to accommodate them will determine how God can accommodate you. Forgive us our debts as we forgive their debts. Telling you that inability to be able to help somebody will deny you access for God's help. So sometimes God brings some people around you who misbehave so you can contribute to their transformation. But there are people who are above your capacity. What you must do is not to hate them or gossip them. What you must do is to separate from them, not in hatred with love, and begin to intercede for them in a distance, because we are a body. And then Dr.Gerald makes you to think to just break out from people. Look, there's no way the eye can break out from the body and survive. You'll be a zombie. If you pass, you see two eyes walking. It's witchcraft. Because eyes were not meant to walk alone. Eyes are meant to be part of a body. If you are called and you understand your calling, you will not live a segregative ministerial life. You can create a distance to what you cannot manage, because you must flee from what can influence you negatively. But intercede and not gossip the person. That's a word of caution to leaders. Understand that you don't have any strength to protect anything. Trusting in God. He said, for thine is the kingdom. Be kingdom-minded. And you'll find God take charge over things which you're using your human mind to create conflict. That's the reason why the body of Christ is in constant conflict. And they're expecting to be a voice. They can never be a voice. You're a group of people, they're hypocritical. How do you expect that your prayers can make sense? It's just an activity. What you must do, create a time to separate. Intercede for them. If they love you, they intercede for you. And God makes the change. And then that breach will be broken. And then you have a ground to function in righteousness. But what you can assist, my brother, assist. Because tomorrow you will need assistance from somebody. All of us will need God's help. But we must understand that to attract God's help, we must be able to give help to somebody who needs it. Amen. Proceed.
It says, and the power and the glory.
And the power and the glory. You see, kingdom has a dimension called power. There's a dimension of God's power that he deploys. There's a dimension of God's glory that he deploys. How does it begin? When you seek the kingdom, you enter into the experience of his power, and the effect is his glory. You get what I'm saying? When you seek his kingdom, you enter into what? A dimension of what? His power, and the effect is his glory. Nobody experiences the glory of God if they are not kingdom-minded. When you're kingdom-minded, people experience power is dynamic ability to cause change. Tell you that there is power in knowledge. There is power in silence. There are attitudes which are strong, which can defeat a particular conflict. So you must understand that power lies in you getting into the functionality of that which God has programmed for you. It causes nature to respond to it because it fits to God's purpose. So sometimes to be silent, which that is what is expected of God, is the highest wisdom to destabilize a particular attack over your life. So everything that is in God's program causes you to function and operate in power, and his glory becomes the ground. Conclude.
Forever. Amen.
Forever. It means it will not change. So no matter what you're trying to do, now this is where we are. God stands in the congregation of the mighty. Now God calls you mighty. Why does God call you mighty? He calls you mighty because of his might in you. When he created you in his image in Genesis chapter 1 verse 27, verse 28, he empowered you with his ability to dominate the earth. That is his might. So God defines you based on the capacity that is in you that can subdue the earth. You define yourself based on the ignorance of the capacity in you. That's why you see yourself in nobody. So as a man thinks, so is he. So you are what you think per time, but your originality is far stronger than your thinking. Now, let's enter into the book of Ephesians chapter 3 verse 20. There are things to know. There are things to know. Unto him that is able to do. Are you there? Are you there? Unto him that is able to do. We have different interpretations that will make you to feel that it is what God is able to do. Unto him, they're talking to you. The might in you has capacity for performance. Follow it. Unto him that is able to do There's ability for performance in you and you're not performing. Oh my God. There's ability of what? Performance in you but you're not performing. Every man created by God was empowered with capacity to be fruitful. That's performance. Subdue the earth. That's performance. Dominate the earth. That's performance. But why are you not dominating the earth? Why are you not bringing fruitfulness where there's dryness? Unto him that is able to dominate the earth, able to subdue the earth. Unto him that is able to do exceeding, telling you that what? Whatever impact level your mind has settled for is less than that which you were fashioned for. Who understood what I said? Unto him that is able to do exceeding. Never settle at a level of impact because your original capacity is unlimited. I'm talking about breaking limits. With God, all things are possible. Carrying the capacity of divinity makes you to operate in limitless capacity. How much you can deploy per time is equal to how much you have been able to explore as the capacity of divinity in you. I will explain as we go. Able to do what? Exceeding, abundant. You are not supposed to live in limitation. Above. There's no height that is supposed to be the limit to that which you can attain. Above all what you can. Somebody say ask. Above what you can ask. Tell you that your greatest limitation is your mindset. Above all what you can ask or imagine. Bible said the weapon of our warfare, they are not carnal, they are mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds, casting imagination. So there are wrong imagination you need to cast that set a limitation in your life. As a man thinks, so is it. Casting imagination. Above all what you can ask or imagine. You cannot ask different from your imagination, right? So sometimes our requests are primitive because of a poor understanding of God's capacity in us. Until they're able to do exceeding, abundantly, above what you are asking. Tell you that man's greatest limitation is their level of illumination. Write it down. Man's greatest limitation is their level of illumination. Man's greatest limitation is their level of illumination. Who understood that? Means if my illumination is equal to primary school, I cannot write secondary school exam and pass. So my results cannot go above my illumination. So Bible says study to show. It means that which your life cannot show. Performance is relative to what? Illumination level. Many have sight, but they lack light. Knowing that the strength of success is not sight, it's light. Sight is the physical eye. Light is the eye of the spirit. There has no boundary to result. So Bible says, let the eyes of your understanding be enlightened. Understanding is an eye. Your understanding level determines the strength of your vision in the spirit. Do you know that physically some people's eyes cannot see in a particular distance? They have eye like but they can't see the particular distance. Some people have knowledge, but their knowledge cannot perform particular results. How many of you have discovered that? So let the eyes of your understanding, so your understanding level becomes your eye capacity. A woman who was physically blind, called Helen Keller, had many presidential awards, made so much impact, which after she died, her foundation is still helping Africa. She was blind. Why she was alive? They asked her that. With all this achievement and success, we thought that your physical handicap in your eyes would have been a limitation for you to be useless in society. How many of you have seen people who are begging on the street? They feel that they are handicapped. But the woman who did not have eyes prospered until her prosperity is still helping people till today. What does that tell you? You have no excuse to failure. You did not hear what I said. You have what? No excuse to failure. If you are failing, you fail in something. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. You shall know the truth and it shall make you free. So, freedom into prosperity answers to you acquiring knowledge that will empower you to function in a particular realm that brings money to become a source of livelihood. There are people who don't fight with money, they don't struggle, they don't look for money. Money looks for them. Because they are built an illuminative capacity that causes them to be able to do things that money begins to solicit their attention. Who understand what I'm saying? Implying that there are people who, no matter they pray, there's a particular amount of money that will not look for them. Let me explain to you. I wrote one book, my first book, 21st Century Symbiosis. Anybody who is connected to me needs to read that book. Small like that, but very heavy. I wrote a chapter on reasonable reasoning. Change this. A chapter on reasonable reasoning. Hello? Put it on. I wrote a chapter on reasonable reasoning. What was I saying in that chapter? Reasonable reasoning. It means sometimes your reasoning is not reasonable. Do you understand? Sometimes your reasoning is not reasonable. Because sometimes your reasoning defines a good man as a bad man. Is it reasonable? I said, there are levels of result that answer to people based on their reasoning capacity. So if God says, come and let us reason together, God says, you cannot perform my result if your reasoning is lower than my own. For my ways are higher than your own, and my thoughts greater than your own. So you can't think lesser than me and attract the kind of things I attract. So if we want to get God's result, we must upgrade our thinking to God's knowledge. Then I gave an example. I said, a man whom their reasoning capacity can manage 100,000. If you give them a business of 100 million, after a period of time, that business will be reduced to 100,000. Have you gone to buy something for somebody? You give 1,000, they give you change 9,000 and something. Have you ever experienced? That is they say it's witchcraft. It's not witchcraft. Nobody can have performance above their level of growth. What? Nobody can do what? Have performance above what? Their level of growth. We have a challenge. We're waiting for things to happen. Normally, there are things we need to know that will cause us to take steps that will carry us to a place of results. Anybody who wants to be here cannot just sing out, I want to be there, I want to be there. You need to first look for information that can guide you towards where we are, for you to arrive where we are. So at the levels of results you never arrive until you acquire knowledge that can bring you to that place of performance that would usher such results. Who is with me? Say God stands in the congregation of the mighty and he judges the world amongst gods. He said, how long will I judge unjustly? How long will you judge unjustly? You know what God is saying? You are placing wrong judgment. I'm poor. It's a wrong judgment. You are God. I'm sick. It's a wrong judgment. Now you see the point is, you can't just be healed because you are fashioned to live above sickness. You can only be healed when you acquire the knowledge that makes you to live above that level that attracted sickness. We are seated in heavenly places, far above principalities and powers. Some people are seated in places where principalities and powers would mess air on their head. What is your placement in the spirit? The devil is no problem, but it becomes a problem when you lack an understanding on how to live above his devices. When you lack an understanding on how to live above his devices, he will manipulate you. And it doesn't change the fact that God is God. Have you seen a person who is given a phone, he doesn't know how to use it? The fact you hold the phone doesn't mean you use it. You need to acquire knowledge on how to use it before you start enjoying it. We should stop making unnecessary complaints. There are things to understand. He said, to defend the poor and fatherless, do justice to the afflicted and the needy. Every day, God is coming to help you. When He has put the capacity in you for you to be independent. He said, how long? Now, this how long go in context with, must we continue to sin so that grace will abide? What is grace now? The grace which they're talking about is the transferred one, where God now is sustaining you because of your ignorance. But you must not remain in ignorance for God to be sustaining you. God is expecting you to grow in knowledge so you can be free from bondage. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall do what? Set you free. Amen. Read the scripture. There's something I want to show you.
It says, now unto Him that is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that worketh in us.
Correct. Before we get to according to the power that worketh in us, now where's the scripture that says you shall know the truth?
John 8:32.
Read it.
It says, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
Correct. You know I said you read it. You change a conception which people have just been preaching. People have been preaching. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Making is a process. Oh, making is a process. You are not free from poverty because I gave you money. You are free from poverty because I have processed your mind for you to get to a place where you can cultivate money by yourself. You are not yet free when somebody gives you anything. You are free when you go through a process of making. Now, we are going to come back to that Ephesians 3:20, the last listen. But let's go now let's go to 2 Corinthians 3:6 to be able to analyze on the making. Somebody will read New Living Translation, somebody read King James. Oh, you see, the Bible is very, very rich, but poor understanding can make you to manipulate truth. When you find people arguing scriptures, they have a problem. Truth on its own has the power to illuminate.
2 Corinthians 2:6.
Which version?
King James.
Okay, prepare New Living Translation. Read.
Okay. Sufficient to such a man is this punishment.
2 Corinthians 3:6.
2 Corinthians 3:6. He says, who also have made us able ministers.
Who also, pause, has made us able ministers. Understand, to be a minister without ability is a disgrace. Oh my God. Who also has made us. The making is important for you to get ability to function as an effective minister. Many ministers who are not effective is because they have not understood the importance of what? The making. Oh my God, oh my God. Why do ministers get to a place where they become a disgrace? It's because they don't understand the place of the making is the making that activates their ability for better performance. Poor performance in ministry is as a result of you not giving attention to proper making. Improper preparation will lead to poor performance. Proper preparation will lead to sustainable productivity. Any level you desire, when your preparation is not equal to it, you become a problem to it. The problems of the church comes as a result of people not giving room to be made. It's good to know you are called, but it's more important for you to be made before you start announcing your call. At least you attack a devil which you'll not be able to handle. When you tell people you have a restaurant, hungry people will come there. When they come there and there's no food, you will receive insults. Before you open the door of your restaurant, make sure there's food there. Before you start telling people, I'm a servant of God, make sure your preparation is equal to the task. Because there are expectations to every personality. When a person calls himself a medical doctor, know that there is an expectation. Don't just go and buy a white jacket and put red pen and blue pen and hang stethoscopes in your ears and open an office, say, I am Dr. This. It's not the garment that makes you a doctor. It is your level of preparation. When people come to consult you, when you lack medical insight, you would cause people to die. Telling you, the making is more important than the ministry. Every minister wants to be efficient and effective must consider the importance of the making above the office. The quality of your making will determine the quality of your performance. Don't degenerate to a place where your performance becomes a disgrace to God. God would always give you the opportunity to be humble enough to go through effective making. Many people don't go through effective making, you see. They become a contradiction unnecessarily. Jesus Christ, who was God, was humble to ethics. You didn't hear what I said? Many young pastors today, they don't want to follow protocol because they feel they have capacity. At the age of 12, his performance baffled top theologians in the synagogue. They kept him for many days. It's good to preach that. We should find out what happened after that. What kept him there for many days? A man whom people risked their life, trekked to Africa to preserve his life, risked their life to raise him in the ways of God. Suddenly he's claiming now. They go out for an outing, he disappears. Many servants of God. I wrote a book on what? Teenage excitement in ministry. Many servants of God, because they can raise a dead person, they can prophesy. They don't want to hear any authority speak to them. Look, let me tell you, authority is not in the kind of performance you have. Authority is in the integrity you have in the spirit, based on the trust God has given you. Oh God. Hear me. Many are a problem today because they don't want to listen to anybody. I have a car, he doesn't have a car. How can I be listening to him? I have a larger church than him. Didn't you know that Gerald was younger than the people who he was leading? When he gets to things of spirituality, it's not measured by physicality. Spirituality is measured by the weight in the spirit which God has positioned you in. Oh, can I talk to you? Let me stretch behind. In the Old Testament, there was a man called David, which is one of my measure model, which Jesus Christ is a prototype of him. Now watch. He was anointed king by the prophet who put the king. He never got up and contest. Hey, you people should stop looking at that man on the throne there. He's now king. Oh, God's prophet, which all of you respect and know, has anointed me king. He never said so. Where did you see it? Did you see that? He humbled himself. He was still serving his brothers. Let me tell you, humility pays. God resists the proud and raises the humble. Let God announce you. Don't announce yourself. Now, if we stretch into Romans 8:19, in the New Living Translation, he said, creation is waiting for God to reveal his own sons. Telling you that when you announce yourself because of the things that are happening in your life, it's wrong. You can raise the dead, but let God announce you, because even a brother God can use to raise the dead. Don't go and say I'm a prophet now, because your eyes were open in the spirit and you saw somebody's color of his pant. You just say you're a prophet. No. In those days, any member in the church, when the Holy Spirit come upon them, they start prophesying. He didn't make them prophet. The Bible says on the last day, God will pour his spirit upon all flesh, and they shall prophesy. They shall see vision. To prophesy does not make you a prophet. Many people are carrying titles which are questionable. How did you get to that title? Who ordained you to the office? Look, I tell you, if pride will not die in some people, they'll be maintaining titles which heaven is frowning at them. When you are endorsed into something by other authorities, you can stand and boast. But if you are not endorsed into it by proper authorities, Apostle Paul did not get the one that says an apostle. Under authorities, where they put him under fasting and prayers, the Holy Spirit came because he saw his submission and humility after all the impact he had created. He said, separate me now, Paul and Barnabas. In the next phase, they said, Paul and Barnabas, they are apostles of the Lord. You see, for people to begin to ascribe a title on you that you yourself invented is a problem. That the Lord told me I'm an apostle. The Lord told me I'm a prophet. Witchcraft. How many of you have seen great men of God who still have title pastor? And their results are greater than some of us who have title bishop. Don't invent a title. Be put there. There's nothing I ever look. Whatever I would deserve is what God will use others to confer on me. Based on what? My service. That's when it becomes authentic. Where was I? If I came here. God revealing his own. Improper making makes people to be rebellious. Luke chapter 1 verse 80, the child grew, wax strong in spirit. Maturity in the spirit makes you to be humble. He stayed in the desert till the time of the showing forth. There are people who, once they know they can heal the sick, they want to heal every sick. Not knowing that there are some people whom God has kept them in that condition so they can repent. You must be healed, you must be healed. What an excitement. Teenage ministry is very disastrous. That's why you need a strong hand that can coach you, so you don't get into excesses and have unnecessary problems. There are things that God will tell you concerning somebody, you must not tell the person. Sometimes God tells you so that you should know how to handle the person. You should know how to be able to build the person. But today, everything people hear, they want to say. There are things you must say to cause some people to be convicted so that they can be saved. That is why we prophesy. When people have that expectation, they are under a mystification, they are confused. They need a prophetic word to be able to break them to believe in the word of God. After that prophetic word, there must be a prophetic direction that establishes them in the word of God and in the life of God for them. If it's from one prophecy to another prophecy, it's a problem. They will never know God. You have not saved them. The gift is to make a way. The gift does not build. You didn't hear what I said. Gift does not build. If I give you a car, I have not built you. You have a false image of greatness. People come and pack on magic, you come and pack your own also. After 1 week, you will know that you'll be able to put fuel. It was just a gift. But if you were built to a point where you could buy it by yourself, then putting fuel is not a problem. True of us. If a man can be able to make money to buy a car, putting fuel is not a problem. But they give you a car as a gift, you know that when it has to do. Have you known that some people, their cars are packed for the past 5 months? If you go and check, the problem is 20,000 francs. They are not concerned about fixing because they are, after I fix them, I need petrol. So they just allow it and begin to take taxi. Don't desire something where you have not gotten to the level. Desire to be made. When you are made, you have capacity. Who also has made us? Made, somebody say us. Yes. It means the making is not just for an individual. Don't get to a place of pride because God has given you a capacity that only you can do it. Because us is plural without limitation, means anybody can be made by God. And God can make somebody better than you. Never be proud about anything God is doing through you. Whatever you have is not because you are too strong. God has given you that capacity. And be humble enough to be able to acknowledge the hand of God. Humility comes when you have understanding. But if the lack of understanding, pride will come. Made us able. Somebody say able. Ability comes after effective making. Every level of ability that you can perform is equal to what? The quality of what you are making. Do you know there are people who will hear this thing like this? Their minds will begin to change. When you go back, you get on my Facebook page, you can share it, and somebody will be highly blessed. Can I talk to you? Never settle at a place which people are celebrating you. Desire to go through full making. There are different facets of making. There's a studying that does not involve you to go and sit in a classroom. They are studying by following somebody. You learn following somebody. You learn being exposed to what others are doing. So there are different ways of what? Learning. Never assume that because you have finished school, learning is finished. No. There are different ways God would expose you to that which would make you to be capacitated to fulfill his assignment over your life. Who is understanding me? I believe that somebody is actually programmed for something great, but their lives are not cultivating it. Their lives are not cultivating it because of a lack of proper preparation. Which is what I'm saying. There's a height somebody is supposed to be there. You are not yet there. Not because God hates you, because your preparation is not equal to it. And God does not want to allow you to enter into it and become a disgrace to Him. Look, there's a level of understanding you have. You will not be worried about what you don't have. You will instead be seeking God to grow and mature so He can qualify you into that level of blessing you desire. So He can do what? Qualify you into that level of blessing you desire. He said, the child grew, waxed strong in spirit, and he waited till the time of his showing. God will only usher you into a level when He feels you are capacitated for it. Capacity is given by Him. Now, 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 10 said, the God of all grace has called us unto His eternal glory. Eternal glory. But now look at the procedure. He said, after you have suffered a little while, He will make you, somebody say make. Perfect. When God makes you perfect, He said, we'll do what? Establish you. So that level of establishment you will never experience because God has not made you perfect. Oh, you didn't hear what I said. There's a lot to learn in this. He said, after you have suffered a little while, why the suffering? You suffer in anything which your understanding is less than it. So when God begins to expose you to the part of your assignment, because you lack mastery of it, you suffer. So, can I tell you something? There are people who suffer to drive. Others don't suffer to drive. So what do you not understand by the suffering? The suffering has to do with you being in a state where your making is incomplete. Struggling to perform will create constraint. Do you not understand? Say, after you have suffered a little while. So God is not worried about the mistakes you make. He's more concerned about you going through the full process of making. Because when He has made you perfect, you'll be established. So don't let what people are saying about your wrong actions, poor performance to discourage you. Only go through proper preparation. When you are done with proper preparation, God will establish you. And when God establishes you, they would close their mouth. Stop arguing with people. Arguing with people won't change anything. He said He will make you what? Perfect. Then after He said that what? He will do what? Establish you. Then after He says He will going to do what? You never even open it. 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 10. I want you to read it. When you get there, don't read it. You look at me. Just tell me I'm there. 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 10. This is very interesting, the last part of it. So you should know that you don't serve God in vain. There is never anybody who will serve God in vain. Just that you have not gotten to the place where a particular experience that God has programmed for you, you will be thinking that something is wrong with you. But patience for proper preparation will give you the full experience. Are you there? First Peter chapter 5 verse 10. After He's established you, He said the word, He will settle you. My God. If God settle you, can it be compared with any settlement in any government? You see, ministry has a future that is great. Let me tell you something. Let people criticize your ministry. When God is done with you, they will envy your ministry. Because the hallmark of your ministry is that it brings security in a whole continent, in a whole generation. So God says you begin your Jerusalem. Don't settle at your beginning because people are clapping at you in your nation. There are other dimensions of your assignment that goes beyond your nation. Oh my God, if you live your whole life in your country and die in your country, you're a sinner. You have not been able to explore the full measure of God's assignment and mandate over your life. There are nations that need what is in you. When you understand what assignment is all about, you stop limiting yourself to the primitive thinking of just standing behind the pulpit and shouting hallelujah. It's more than that. There are structures and systems in the world that will be defined by the performance of your ministry. Who also has made us able ministers of the New Testament. When you hear New Testament, means there was an Old Testament. Understand that God does not make you to fit in a dispensation that has passed. God prepares you in context of your generation. Who understood what I said? Your preparation must not be in line with that of Elijah. No. Ask God to give you this day your daily bread. Don't ask God. Give the anointing of Elijah. Have you known people pray that kind of prayer? It is a primitive Pentecostal training that ushers a person to such kind of requests. I need Elijah's anointing. That was disgrace when God was trying to transfigure a people into the future. On the Mount of Transfiguration, they were sleeping. And when Moses appeared and Elijah appeared, they got up. This is what we have been waiting since. Jesus, all this your thing you have been talking about. All this your grammar you have been talking. We have been hearing even we have been waiting for Elijah and Moses. Thank God, it has finally happened. That is people, you don't know. Papa say, dear grandma, Papa, we don't tire there at all. We don't tire. We wait Elijah. We wait Moses. And then God stood up. He said, this is my beloved son in whom I am well pleased. Hear him. Can I tell you something? If you will enter into the fullness of God's mandate for your life, you must understand the one whom you need to hear. There's a man God has fashioned for you to hear. They might have opened Red Sea. If they are not the man, God will disqualify them. They might have called fire to come down. If they are not the man, your ministry will stagnate. So Jesus said, my sheep hear my voice. I know them and they follow me. There's a level God honors you where there are people who need your voice to move forward. And if you be stranded in life, it's for you to live your life hearing any voices. You know, people hear many voices, they are possessed also. Have you seen people, I hear voices, I hear voices. They need prayers. You should be able to know the voice you have to hear. Nobody would ever go far hearing many voices. You go far hearing a voice. The greatest breakthrough that can happen to a person is to identify that voice they need to hear. That day, their ministry has an identity. If it's everybody, then you are not everybody, you are somebody. So you need somebody, not everybody. Who is understanding that? As we reach to the conclusion, read the New Living Translation of the previous verse.
He has made us competent as ministers of the new covenant.
He has made us what? Competent. Tell you that competence only comes when there's effective making.
Not of the letter.
Now wait. Priska, you are in the educational world and in the commercial world. Do they employ people because of a title? When they do probation, what do they want to assess? Simple. After you present a title, it's not moving them all. They want competence. And competence only is proven when there's effective making. Stop just hanging one big certificate in your wall. Let us see the performance. Stop putting titles, Apostle, Bishop, Dr. Solomon, General. Competence. It speaks volumes.
As ministers of no covenant.
As ministers, you're not yet a minister where there's the absence of competence. Competence comes when there's a proof of your ministry. When there's what? When you find people who